Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here, and today, just like any other time, man, we are here with a special guest. And yes, as you can see, I'm finally listening to all the feedback. I'm doing video. I'm a little nervous, but hey, I'm happy to be here. First and foremost, I want to introduce you to our guest for today. We have Ann Swanson. She is going to tell us everything about meditation. She knows a little bit about that herself. She has a best-selling book, Science of Yoga, that has been translated in over 15 languages. We're going to be discussing one of her newer books, and that is Meditation for the Real World. You can go to her website, meditationfortherealworld.com. But like any other guest, she has an amazing story, even includes traveling internationally to study this whole thing about yoga and meditation. So first and foremost, Anne, thank you for your time. How are you doing today?
Doing well today. I am almost 9 months pregnant, so this is one of my last interviews before
Congrats.
my baby boy comes.
I appreciate you squeezing some time to talk to us today, and congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
So let's talk about before we get into the book Meditation for the Real World, and appreciate you allowing me to have a hard copy. Talk a little bit about what inspired this whole book, and when did that process start when you started traveling because you wanted to get into this a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, so I came to mind body practices, yoga, and then ultimately meditation because I myself dealt with a lot of chronic pain since I was a teenager and anxiety, debilitating anxiety, to the point that I would pass out at the doctor's office or in situations that were overwhelming to me. And so I went to yoga classes in college and I thought of it as kind of an exercise, like a way to get my physical exercise in. And by the time we'd get to the meditation part of the class, I'd be like, oh my God, this is so boring. It is time to go. I have things to do. I'd have my eyes wide open, like staring at the ceiling. And then every once in a while, a teacher would do a technique that worked. A lot of them didn't work on me, but sometimes it would work. And I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to be present and relax. And as I got a taste of it, I got really obsessed. And I ended up, when I graduated from college, going to China and studying Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation practices there. And then from there to India to study yoga and a variety of, Ayurvedic massage and sound healing and meditation. And then I had an interest in the Western perspective of it. When I came back to the US, I did the pre-med course load and I worked in a cadaver lab and I became a massage therapist. And I was looking at how do we affect the body from a physiological level? Why does this work? Why does meditation and movement and Tai Chi and yoga, why do they work? How do they work? And that ultimately led me to get a master's of science in yoga therapy to kind of bring those two, the tradition as well as the Western science approach together. And my first book, Science of Yoga, it goes into the science to support it. And then just recently, Meditation for the Real World goes into the science, but also gives real world practical practices. Because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I got to sit on the floor and chant for 20, 30 minutes a day. But it really doesn't have to be that way. So, how can we apply the science in a way that actually fits in our everyday life? And that's really been helping me. It has helped me significantly with my own chronic pain and anxiety. And now I hope to help others.
In your book, you have over 75 meditation techniques that are gone over for your readers. Which of the techniques do you see people kind of responding to the most? Because you have a ton of reviews already on the book. What has been the feedback on some of these different techniques?
Yeah, I think the 1 minute meditations are something that people can really use and apply in their lives. The cover of the book, which by the way is illustrated by a New York Times and New Yorker illustrator. It's really gorgeous illustrations, it's a coffee table book. It's a gift book that you can give to anybody that may be interested in meditation. So the cover of the book has a woman on a subway, and everybody around her is hunched over their cell phone or computer, and she's the only one that looks chill and calm. She's sitting a little bit taller. She's got headphones on. Maybe she's listening to a guided meditation. Maybe she's listening to a song and just really present. She's got her eyes open. You can totally have your eyes open while meditating. It doesn't have to be this thing where you cross your legs on the floor with incense. It can be very practical in these moments where you're already sitting and waiting rather than scrolling while you wait, meditate while you wait and integrate it into your life. So I've gotten a lot of great feedback of just these practical ways to integrate science-backed techniques to get real results, like these 1 minute meditations and breathing breaks we can do through our day.
And I love the illustration with the whole bus and everything because when it comes to creative approaches that people might be able to use, because this is for the book is for people who might be busy, but there are creative ways that you can try to approach this. So while one is reading, what's some things that you would like our listeners to keep in mind and viewers to keep in mind? What's some of the creative approaches that they can actually put in place?
Well, one of the most classic ways you could do a meditation that anybody can memorize right now, but it's what I call the five senses meditation. And we can do this as a 1 minute meditation when we're like really overwhelmed. Maybe you're answering emails and you need a break. You need to take a moment. Our eyes are not used to, or they're not meant to stare at these little screens all the time. So, first step in this meditation, we'll do it together, is to look away from a screen. So, if you're on YouTube watching this, you look away from it. If you're near a screen, you're doing this later on your own, look away from the screen. If there's a window, look out the window. Try to look down the hallway, something where you can broaden your vision and take it in. Let your eye muscles relax and notice what you see with clarity. Optionally, you can close your eyes. You'll still notice what you see with lights and colors and textures, but shift your awareness to now what you hear. Doesn't have to be perfectly silent to meditate. Whatever you hear is part of the meditation. It could be loud noises, people in the distance, cars, whatever it is. Hear it. Hear all the layers of sound. Maybe in the foreground, you can hear your own breath. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Notice any smells. Exhale slowly. Notice any taste. And bring your awareness into your body. What do you physically feel? Maybe you feel like readjusting your posture or moving your body a little bit. Maybe your body's asking you for something. Maybe you're noticing you're thirsty or hungry, or a certain movement would be supportive. Notice whatever your body's asking and gently open your eyes, taking in all five senses simultaneously, what you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. And then bring this sense of awareness with you as you continue to listen to this interview.
Once again, we listen to Refocused Radio, talking to our guest, Ann Swanson. We're discussing her book. They can get her website. It's Meditation for the Real World. Go to the website, meditationfortherealworld.com. And speaking of just that little mini exercise that you did for our viewers, appreciate that. When it comes to processing our progress, if you will, because a lot of people are like, man, well, if I'm doing it wrong, and you just kind of get in your head a little bit too more than you actually need to. For beginners, well, some ways that they can just kind of like just start and just get into it versus overthink it.
Yes, exactly. I think a lot of us overthink. We think that we're doing it wrong, but there's really no way to do it wrong. And A lot of times, if you've tried a meditation technique before and it didn't work for you, maybe you even felt more anxious, or you're like, wow, my mind wandered too much. I'm not good at this. Well, it's not that you're not good at it. It's just that, you were just doing the wrong technique for you for that situation. It's not a one size fits all. There's not just one technique of meditation. As you said, I have 75. Actually, I have 83 in the book. They just said 75 because it looked better for marketing. And so this particular book goes through many techniques you can do. And I'd say try different techniques. If you go to meditationfortherealworld.com, not only are you going to find out how to buy a book, but you'll also get a free gift to your listeners, which is a 5-day meditation challenge, less than 10 minutes a day for 5 days, where you get to try out 5 different techniques to see what works for you. And then obviously you can dive deeper.
When you look at the research that you put into this, talk about your experience traveling, like you said earlier in the show, multiple locations. What was the experience like learning from a different perspective, and how did that also help you be able to write this book?
Yeah, so understanding the tradition and the history as well as the science. I think that there's so much more overlap than people may think. People think, oh, science, the research is very distant and it takes out the tradition and it's overly distilled and simplified and it's not a lot of people can be in the traditional world can be resistant of the science. But when I read research on meditation, on yoga, the researchers themselves are practitioners. That's why they're doing this research. It's not like there's a lot of money in this field, or tons of grants in this field. They're doing it because they're passionate and they think that it can help with anxiety, chronic pain, heart disease, etc. So that's why they're committing their lives to it. And they incorporate traditional practices, well-rounded, traditions where you're using the breath work, the pranayama, where you're using mantras and Sanskrit. Believe it or not, that's in the research. So I think a lot of times people think that that's two separate perspectives, but there's so much overlap between research and science and the traditional, the history. So that's been something pretty surprising to me. And as I meet the researchers, is seeing like how they really respect the traditions often.
When you have the diagrams in your book as well, is that the same illustrator from the front cover as well, who helped you with
Yes,
the inside?
yes,
I
it is
like
the
them, and
same.
when you give us the readers the visual to kind of
Yeah.
yeah, just like that. Yeah, because when you allow the readers to see and actually implement what they're actually seeing, uh, how effective do you believe that does when authors are actually including those visuals for people to actually follow? Because it's one way to write about meditation, but it's pretty cool that you can kind of have both illustration along with the steps.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times we think, oh, picture books are for kids, but adults love them too. We love Venn diagrams explaining it. We love to see when I'm explaining the science behind it, then you can see what's actually going on in the body and in the brain. I think it helps so many types of learners, visual learners especially, to take in the information. And that's one of the things I love about my publisher, DK, is they do these visual books. We know DK for children's books. If you've done the I Spy series or Lego books or any of the children's encyclopedias are often done by DK, these educational books. And they also branch into like how do we educate adults with imagery? I think it's really important to apply visuals and practice. And Throughout the book, there's practices, 1 minute meditations. You meditate as you read, or afterwards, you're invited to close your eyes and sit tall and do the practice right there in a book. We're so obsessed with everything being digital, but like you can have it by your bedside and not be on a digital platform. You can be with paper. There's something about that paper and flipping through the pages. So this is one I would recommend getting as print rather than digital. It's a coffee table book. It's a beautiful hardcover. It's a gift book.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Ann Swanson, and go to her website for the book Meditation for the Real World. It's simple. It's meditationfortherealworld.com. Let's explore some of the techniques because you have somewhere in the book where it has quick de-stress and connecting with nature. Kind of
Mhm.
share our viewers and audience a little bit about those two and how that's just a sneak peek on the many ones that they can really appreciate.
Yeah, so I integrate a lot of science that's kind of tangential of how to enhance your meditation practice and your life. I worked with Dr. Sarah Lazar, who's a meditation researcher and yoga researcher at Harvard, to integrate the most cutting edge research. And one of the areas that has so much evidence to support it is nature and how good nature is for our health. Just spending, an hour or 2 hours a week in nature can make a profound difference. But a lot of people think, oh, I need to go deep into the woods or to the ocean for it to count. But actually, we can take breaks through our day and get exposure to what researchers call green spaces and blue spaces. So, a blue space is as simple as a fountain, in a city. Hearing the sound of the water running, that's something called pink noise that has research to support it to help you relax and enhance your memory. And so you can also get a green space by just going to a patch of green, a little tiny park, and being around trees, the smell of trees, taking a mindful moment, a 1 minute meditation to appreciate it, we see has measurable benefits to your health. Just taking a few deep breaths around trees. Trees have aerosols in them that help to reduce inflammation and increase natural killer cells, which are something in your immune system that helps you fight cancer. So just by smelling nature, being in nature. But if you don't have a green space or blue space nearby to take a 5-10 minute break from work or through your day, then even listening to recordings of pink noise and nature sounds can have these profound benefits. And that's why I integrated in the meditation challenge you get at meditationfortherealworld.com, science-backed nature sounds and what they call in the research digital drugs. These sounds that can have an immediate effect, a profound effect to your health to help you relax. Because a lot of us, we've tried meditation before, but it didn't work as well. So what can we do to enhance it? Well, we can use sounds, we can use nature, we can use things that us as humans are craving already and improve our health overall, get into good habits.
And let's talk about Anne because before you wrote this book, you travel, you learn about the ancient history as well as another perspective. When you started to gather all this information and start apply it to your own practice in the real world, what were some of the things you noticed maybe changed as you involved getting deeper into the techniques?
Well, I have dealt with chronic joint pain since I was a teenager. And with chronic pain, it comes and goes and flares and goes up and down based off of all these lifestyle choices. By meditating and becoming more in touch with what my body's asking for, what my body's saying to me, I've been able to listen to my body when it's whispering a message to me rather than when it's yelling and I'm like in bed, bedridden, overwhelmed with pain. So when we did that five senses meditation, and I invited you to listen to your body, maybe your body was telling you to take a sip of water. Staying hydrated is really important for our health. It's so simple. Maybe your body was telling you you need to prioritize sleep tonight. When we really listen to our body, it's these basic needs. And so I'm able to listen, deliver, and notice the triggers of pain a lot better. Certain foods would cause pain for me and trigger me to go into a flare, or red wine or whatever it may be, I was able to make that connection. So becoming more mindful and connected to my body has made a huge difference in my chronic pain journey.
And like I said earlier in the interview, you had a lot of response to this book, but also the previous book that people can get a copy of, that Science of Yoga. Between the two, when you see how people are not just reacting in a positive way about how the books are useful, but it's also formatted in a way where it's almost like easy steps. If you're a beginner, you can kind of dive into this and start your own journey and see how you can benefit from it.
Yes, absolutely. I think meditation for the real world is really for those absolute beginners as well as the people that are more seasoned meditators. It spans the interest level, and science of yoga is for people interested in that science perspective, the evidence to support it. And so I would definitely recommend checking them out if you're a visual learner, you love visual and practical learning techniques.
And not to throw you a curveball, but just popped in my
Yeah.
head for those who don't quite understand what meditation really is and what
Mm.
yoga really is. What are some the common, like, not hitting the mark, what people think it might be, what they assume it might be, versus what it really actually is?
People think yoga is the physical poses. But yoga has 8 limbs, 8 different parts, and the physical poses are only one of the 8 parts. We also have the pranayama or the breathing practices, and we could consider meditation as like multiple limbs. It's the majority of the practice is meditation. So I think that people think it's just so, all about being flexible and being in these picture perfect poses, but you don't even have to do the poses to be doing yoga. Now, meditation, people think that it's stopping your thoughts, and that's why they think they're bad at it. Because how could any of us stop our thoughts? We are mind-wandering machines as humans. It is human nature. That's something actually quite unique about us, we believe, is for our brains to be able to plan the future and evaluate the past and learn from it. And so, if you think that meditation is stopping your thoughts, you are going to fail at it. It is not. It's about observing your thoughts, stepping back. And by nature, over time, there will be more space between your thoughts, but it doesn't happen right away. It's a practice. And you've got to find the technique that works for you. So I think the other thing people think is meditation is just mindfulness. That's kind of been the buzzword. And mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment. And we can be mindful in anything we do. We can use it as a type of meditation practice, but there's many other types of meditation practice. You can use visualization. You can use an affirmation or a mantra, a word or a phrase you repeat. So there's so many different types of meditation. Walking meditation in nature, for example. You don't have to be still. That I wanted to really show people it's not a one size fits all. It's not, you've tried this technique, so you're bad at it. No, there's so many different techniques to try and find what works for you.
And also from a author's perspective, being a best-selling author is obviously is not easy to do. It's hard enough to put a book together and then after that try to introduce into the world. With your experience as being able to sell your books, not just put them out there, but people have a positive reaction to the books you release. What has been the learning curve for you from being a first-time bookseller to now? Kind of comfortable and you kind of know how to get the stuff out there.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I I think that different techniques than you might think. Like when I first wrote Science of Yoga, I thought, oh, I'll go on a traditional book tour and travel the world. And I sold everything I owned, and I knew I was being translated into over 15 languages. So I started booking, Germany and Japan, and I was going all over the world to teach where it was being released. And then the pandemic hit. And with COVID-19, things became delayed and ultimately canceled. And so it didn't go the way I planned for the promotion of that book, but it still obviously went well in a different way. I had to move more digitally. And so for this book, and especially being pregnant, it's been all about podcasts and coming to meet amazing people like you and talk to different audiences virtually. So I'd say it's been just kind of an adaptation of what works because I was forced into it, as many of us were during that time in the world, to adapt.
I think a lot of people probably tried meditation during the pandemic to say
Yes.
the least, because I mean you had nothing but time. You had nothing but time to do that. Well, once again, we're talking to our guest today, Ann Swanson, and her book Meditation for the Real World. You go to her website, meditationfortherealworld.com, and also you can get the other book that she is best selling in, that is Science of Yoga. Before we let you go, a couple of things. You being able to have exposure internationally and travel and see different cultures, how has that also influenced how you've been able to not just articulate your message, but to give people a broader perspective of, being able to see through the lens of someone who's kind of traveled the world?
Mm. I think that one thing is meditation in particular. It's practiced throughout the world and throughout time. I mean, yoga has become more popular in the modern day, but we saw meditation techniques popping up in Japan and, of course, India, China, Native Americans, multiple native traditions. Even the Romans had their way of meditating. And so seeing how there's some similarities, so many similarities between different cultures and what we crave. We may just approach it in a slightly different way that has been really helpful to focus on the similarities and the things we share. And meditation and the need to relax and be present is one of them that has come up for philosophers throughout time.
Well, if you want to get this book, I suggest you go get it today. It is simple fitness. Remember the website is super simple to find. It's meditationfortherealworld.com. We'll put everything else in the show notes. And I'm happy to say, I might also make the announcement. I did plan and said a few weeks ago that I will be launching video in 2025. But guess what? You wake up and things happen. And you're like, why not now? So I want to appreciate Ann for allowing the opportunity to interview her and launching the video series of I Am Refocused Radio as well. So I appreciate your time with that. If you have any future plans, I know you're going to be kind of on hiatus a little bit, but is there any way people can keep in touch with you on social media in case you have
Hmm.
any more books coming out or events?
Well, my YouTube channel is Ann Swanson Wellness, and hopefully you can link that below on YouTube. That's my major way. I teach a lot of chair yoga and accessible practices and meditation on that channel. And then my Instagram is at scienceof.yoga if you're really interested in the science behind.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, once again, go to her website. It is meditationfortherealworld.com. Go get a copy of that book and make sure you go check out her on her YouTube. All the links and all the information will be in the show notes. Like I always want to say to you, Ann, thank you for your time.
Thank you.